Hey everybody, welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm speaking with Kirsty Openshaw, who is the women's head coach for England Fire Service Rugby. First up is a massive shout out to our partner, William Wood Watches. Chances are you already know who William Wood Watches is, but if you haven't, you'll have seen them in GQ, The Times, Esquire, Forbes, The Telegraph, BBC, The Financial Times, Men's Health, upcycling firefighting equipment and utilising every single component that makes up the beautiful watches. They've won the Esquire Self-Made Entrepreneur of the Year, were chosen by GQ Men's Health as the best men's watches to buy in 2020 and 2021. And they've donated over 50,000 to international firefighting charities. Now there's so many ways to go on and find out more about William Wood Watches. Head over to williamwoodwatches.com, check them out on their Instagram, check them out on their Facebook. They've got a private group if you are a member, if you have purchased one of their watches. So jump on over, take a look, whether it's the Triumph, the Valiant, the Bronze, the Chivalrous. And they've even got the Tunnel to Towers 911 watches. Honestly, if you are a fan of the emergency services, if you're looking for that gift for someone, whether it's a new recruit, whether it's retiree, get over to williamwoodwatches.com and take a look. I promise you will not regret it. Our second partner of the podcast for today's episode is the incredible Hikes. Hikes footwear is made in Europe and they are an innovative, high-tech, functional shoe manufacturer, and they meet the highest standards all over the world. They cater for the fire and rescue, the medical, workwear, police, military, forestry, streetwear, from our tactical frontline special forces operators to our firefighters boots on the ground. Hikes are keeping us safe in every single way. As part of their partnership with the podcast, they are giving away a pair of Hikes boots every single month. So after the podcast, be sure to jump over to our social media feeds, have a look for that post. We are doing it every single month, so get over there, check it out. There is no funny details to be had, so jump on over, check it out. Hikes UK, a fantastic partner of the podcast. I was really excited to get today's episode on because it's so important that we're giving platforms to absolutely everybody, especially when they want to get involved in something like England Fire Service Rugby, where they are championing people's fitness. There's the cultural aspect, there's how much character it builds in a game like that, and also the fact that we're now able to get a whole women's team together was just really exciting to hear. So I wanted to get in contact with Kirsty. We will most likely be having a follow-up episode at some point with the boys as well, so stay tuned for that one. But if you're sitting comfortably, let's jump in there with Kirsty, and I will see you crazy cats on the other side. Hey Kirsty.
Hey Pete, how's it going?
I'm awesome, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I love your staircase.
It's treacherous, really bloody treacherous.
When one or two bevies are in there, I'm sure it's a little bit of a, because you've got the narrow bit on the inside, haven't you?
Yeah.
Have you ever just completely stacked it or anything like that?
Yeah. You did a podcast a few months back with my other half, Bex Rowe. She's rugby player as well. Yeah, she broke her toe going down that not long ago.
What a dick.
I know, what an absolute bellend. How are you anyway?
I'm fantastic. She's awesome. How's her training going?
Yeah, good. They're really bang on it at the minute. So she's been away in Sweden doing various camping. They found this guy that was SAS and he does lots of expedition type training. So they went away for a week then. They've just done some crevasse training down south.
That is wicked. Have they managed to get people to donate that training, if that makes sense, as a little bit of help their business out, get a bit of alignment, all that sort of stuff? Because we do some cold weather training and stuff with the ISAR team and stuff like that, and it's so crucial to get that. I'd argue even far more so for what she's doing and what all the Antarctic Angels are doing.
Yeah.
It's such a colossally long journey, even in terms of the prep. I mean, not actually the actual journey.
Tell me about it.
We spoke about
I know.
This mindset of the Olympic cycle. That's even harder. That's just
I know. It's not.
I would struggle with that because I'm a recovered addict and I'm like, 4 now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When is it? Next week?
Do you know what?
It's 3 years. Oh, fuck it. No.
Oh, no. Well, I'm exactly the same. Hats off to them. But at the same time, that has always been her life. So training for 3 or 4 years like she did when she was trying to go to the Olympics, that's just normal for her. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, you're away again.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it.
It's awesome.
I promise you, I am supportive of it.
No, you are, yeah. And it's tough as well because when you're both quite gregarious people that are also quite driven, because there's always somebody that has their own stuff going on in a relationship, and they should do, but you have to find the right person, don't you? Because in relationships, some people are like, oh, you want to do loads of stuff, and they just want to not do anything. And that's really difficult. And I had that with
Yeah,
my
yeah.
wife for a period of time. We're still together. But it was like, she was like, oh, I'm your number one fan and all this sort of, she didn't say that, I was a fan of shit, but she was like, she supported me. But I was like, yeah, but I want to support you as well. You know, I want to be front row cheering you on. So you go and do your shit. You go and live your life. Because there's also a certain amount of just fear from people that they do want to do something, even if it's like, it hasn't got to be a fantastic fire ranger. It can be like, I want to paint. My wife always wanted to have a horse. She wanted to do horse riding again. I was like, let's get a horse. You know, we've got 2 horses now. Yeah, but she was always like, oh, God, I'm not the sort of person that could ever own a horse. Oh, God, rich people do that. And I'm like, don't be like, you know, if you can do it, let's do it. You know, let's just break it down, work the steps out. What do we need to do it? How much is it? Blah, blah, blah. And we do it.
Yeah. I mean? And if you're passionate about it, you'll make it work.
Absolutely.
Like, make it happen, don't you?
Yeah, it's a great Jim Carrey quote, you know, where he's like, you know, you can fail at what you don't love. So you might as well have a go at failing at what you love. Right, ready for it?
Yeah, ready.
Kirsty Openshaw, welcome to the Firefighters Podcast. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. So we've been speaking to a few different members of the team running up to this, and I really wanted to have you guys on because alongside yourself, so you're the women's head coach, and we may be speaking to a few of the members of the team at different points as well, but you are here with England Fire Service Rugby.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved in it?
So I'm still Sprog, so I've actually only been a firefighter since last summer, since August. And then it was kind of Christmas time, New Year-ish, I think, that it came about. And I pretty much jumped at the chance of what I do anyway. So before I got into fire brigade, I was in rugby development and rugby coaching. So it was, a really kind of exciting opportunity. So, it's kind of been a little bit of a work in progress and a bit of a baby for the last, however many months, 10 months.
Now, obviously, we've spoken to your partner before. Has rugby always been something you've been part of, or is it just kind of a passion that's turned into something you do professionally, or how did it come about for you?
So I've always been into sport. As a kid, I was always sporty, and I did a bit of touch rugby at school, but I went to an all-girls school who didn't really like the idea of girls playing rugby, so that was quite short-lived. And then I actually just took it up again when I was about 30. So it's only been the last 8 or so years that I've been playing rugby, and then quite quickly got into coaching that way. But I've always loved sport. I've always supported Queens, watched England games and that sort of stuff earlier on, and now it's kind of a huge part of my life as well. So. And obviously with my other half Beck, international rugby player, you know, our life has a lot of rugby in it anyway, and being that she's Welsh, you know, it's kind of in her blood anyway. So. So
how is the team actually structured? Because it's England wide. So how many services are actually in it, and what's the sort of, how does the setup work?
So it's a bit of a growing kind of thing at the moment. So all of the brigades throughout England are welcome to be a part of it. In previous years, I think it's been a bit of a mishmash, no real major setup for it. And Amy, the captain, bless her, has done a lot of the graft herself and sort of put all the hats on and been coach, been manager, been this, that, and the other. So what's really exciting is now that we've kind of got a coaching team in place, we've now been able to sort of put out the message to the whole of the country and say, look, we exist now. Let us know if you're interested. So we did that at the beginning of the year and had a really great uptake. So there's around 70 women plus.
70?
70
wow.
that got in touch and said they want to be a part of it. And that spanned across loads of different brigades.
70 is massive. So your role in it now is the head coach for the women's team. So did the women's start at roughly the same time as the men's? Because obviously, historically, men have always ended up getting more attention in sports and stuff like that. And we won't go into that whole show. But it's great to see that there now is an established platform where everyone is getting the same level of focus and all that sort of stuff. When did the women's team start coming about?
So I think historically the men have been more established for a longer period of time. And that just stands to reason with the history of it. Women's side of sort of peaks and troughs, and they've been about for a few years. But I don't think, from my understanding, that there's been too much of a structure, and it's been sort of mishmashed together in a lot of that time.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the season, they reached out to get a new coach, and I was lucky enough to sort of be able to get that role. So it's really now, I think, that we've now got that proper structure in place where It's myself, and we've got a really exciting coaching team that have committed to it with a number of ex-international players. Sasha, who's played for England. We've got Naomi, who played for Wales. We've got Sarah Minland, played for Ireland. We've got John, who's been involved in the women's section for a number of seasons. And then we've got a couple of other people that are actually not in the services, but they come on as development coaches as well. For me, in terms of women's development of rugby, is that not all women would have played since they were tiny little kids.
No.
And actually sort of making that a really accessible place for women who just want to get involved. And that's kind of how I've pushed it out. Everybody's welcome. And I think that's the reason why we've managed to get so many people interested.
So,
and now we've...
Sorry. So it's incredible that you've got that 70 plus people involved, but how is that going to manifest itself moving forward? So how do you turn that? Is there like a selection process? How formal is that? You know, is the fitness testing, or is it just like, how is it going to be a boot camp? How do you put that together? Because like you say, geographically, people are all over the place. You know, is it going to be a case of people sending in footage of themselves, or how are you going to run the actual process now?
A little bit of all of the above, if I'm honest, for now. So, because I think we're having to be a bit creative with it, especially because it's still in the way it is at the moment. It's really very new. So we have established players already that were involved in it. We held a trials day a couple of months ago where we got a good number down. So we managed to actually see people face to face. Like you said, because of the geographical issues, not everyone could make it down on that day, especially with the shift work as well. So what I've done is, you know, if people are sending in footage, there's quite a lot of players, especially that have been sort of on the rugby scene for a while, that I know already. So or between the coaches know already, so we can kind of have an idea of what standard they're at. And then we've got a fixture coming up in November against British Police.
Yeah.
It's a really big one. November the 24th, get down there. But
where is it? Where is it?
It's at London Welsh in Richmond in London. And so we've managed to be able to put together 2 squads. So there has been a selection process in that we've had these trials days. But I think in year one, we've got to be a bit open and a bit creative and sort of start the building progressively as well. So yes, we have 2 squads, and we will be selecting out of the people that are wanting to be involved who will go in those squads. And on the day before, we've got a training camp the day before. So it just makes it very easy and accessible for everybody from all the corners of the country to get together in those 2 days.
Yeah.
And then that will be the final selection, final cut there. What I was really, really keen to do is make it accessible for people that might not play for as long or might not be as experienced.
Yeah.
Because by us nurturing them and either supporting them through their own local club and being a part of something so special, which, you know, it's a real honour to be able to represent your service, we can now start building that player pool. You know, if we're in year one with 70 odd players and 50 odd players that are going to be playing on one day together, that's fantastic. If we can now
that's incredible.
Look for the future, you know, we're now going to be in competition for those positions. So
and that's what you want.
Kind of where
competition is healthy. Was there any part of you that worried, like, oh my God, what if we get like 6 people reply?
Absolutely, you know that feeling when you have a party and you invite people to your party and then you're sat there with like the buffet table and
you
like,
check the time
no
a few times. You're like, what time did I just check the message.
I'm not into being fashionably late. Come on.
Hey guys, just making sure you all know the address because like nobody's here.
It's 100% that. It's been 100% that. And I'm really lucky that, you know, there's a lot of people that have got on board to get involved. So we've got a management team now, and they've been really putting a lot of graft into, you know, the admin side of it and chasing people up and keeping people informed and, you know, trying to make sure that we're being as organised as possible to give everybody the opportunity to get the lead they need and sort their lives out. And that's a big part of it. I think sort of accommodating people's lives and shift patterns has been a big thing. But that was a massive worry for the trials. And then we've got good numbers actually, but on the day before, so we had a few dropouts. I was like, oh my God, this is it. We're gonna have 6, and I'm gonna have 4 hours of kind of still still
Yeah.
something to
Yeah, it's like
no,
when
it was really
you've
good.
seen services run like open days or have a go days and stuff like that, and there's like
Yeah.
8 crew managers and 2 people from the public turn up,
Yeah.
and they just basically all have a turn at beasting the 2 people, and it's just like
Yeah, yeah.
they're finished. Do you sure you want another go at something? No, I'm fine. I just have another go through the rat run. No, I'm fine.
No,
I don't. I
I'm
want to
going
go home
home.
now. Are you sure? Because we're here for another 5 hours. So you ran the trials day. What was involved in it? Because so there's 2 things, and I'm terrible at this. I ask a million questions at once. You mentioned in there about barriers, sort of. You mentioned several barriers for entry and stuff like that, and I wanted to double click on a few of them. Which is, firstly, how scary it is. So I think it's scary for everybody, men and women, if they're at an age where they're like, you know what, I've always wanted to have a go at X, but I didn't really do it as a kid, and I think I'm going to be crap at it. But I've always think it's really interesting. That can be really scary if people get involved. I think, and that's why I'm asking your opinion, as a woman, I imagine that's a bajillion times scarier, because I've seen some of the photos of you guys and girls, especially some of the women's players, getting after it. They look beasts. They look fit as hell. They look strong. They look scary in the nicest possible way. And if my wife was looking at that, she rides horses and whatever, but I can imagine her feeling a little bit intimidated. It's the same as when you go, even when a skinny guy, I remember when I was a skinny guy, going into a gym for the first time, and you're like, oh shit, there's like
daunting, right?
there's a beast that is really intimidating. Oh my god, that girl's got tape over her head, and she's not fucking about. Do you know what I mean? So how do you help people overcome that? Because you obviously want to be seen by the competitors as the consummate professionals that you are, but you also want to seem accessible and inclusive and approachable. And how did you strike that balance?
I think there's a lot of aspects. I think it can be daunting for women going into something, especially where it's a physical environment. I think it takes a certain sort of person to do a certain sort of sport anyway. You've got to have that about you.
Yeah, you do.
But I think making it really, really like a comfortable, safe environment. So, I mean, the coaches that we've got, they're really talented, skilled, experienced players. And in comparison, I'm nothing on them. I've played rugby and I wasn't the worst player in the world. But, I think where I can sort of intervene is bringing out the best in people and having that high positive energy and really showing that this is a really comfortable space, that everybody is there to get the best out of everybody. Mistakes don't matter, we learn from those. And actually, if you're having fun at something that's really tough, even if you're grafting, even if you're blowing, if you're having fun and enjoying it, along with, supporting your mates, that's the best feeling in the world. And I think just really promoting the fact that rugby, especially out of all sports, there's something for everybody, like all shapes, sizes. We've got some fantastically amazing, big, strong women that, how valuable are they? As well as the teeny tiny ones that, can knit round everyone. So valuable, and all in different ways. We bring something to that.
I also
squad.
see rugby players, great rugby players, as like the thinking man's soldier. Because we look at them and put them in that box and go, oh, big strong beast, and you're like, yeah, but they don't just hit their head against the wall. Do you know what I mean? The strategy that's involved in the game, and being able to have that holistic view of stepping back and reading the play, you'll often find the fittest, strongest person on the field will very, very rarely, in my personal opinion, be the best player on the field, because sometimes they're just busy doing figure eights. Do you know what I mean? They're running like a beast from corner to corner, but they're not reading the play. They're putting in more energy than they actually need to. It's striking that balance between fitness and experience and strategy and knowledge, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, like, you hit the nail on the head, especially with that kind of experience. You know where to exert yourself and how to exert yourself to get the best out of yourself. Rather than running a massive loop, you could cut a really smart line, like some simple things like that. But it does come with experience. And I think that's why I was so keen to be able to facilitate 2 teams as well. We've got our first 15 and we've got our development 15, because that will filter itself through, and we're starting to build kind of a bit of sustainability in the team, and for it to kind of look after and nurture itself, because you've got those experienced players. I mean, we've got some, looking at the lineup now, we've got some really exciting players. And we've got some people that have played international or are playing international. And we've got some players that are like, have given that a go. And we've started to try and build this culture that, there's a place for you, and those people, those new players will learn off of those experienced players. But actually, you've got these 2 teams that there's somewhere for everybody to play and feel like they belong and feel like they're doing something for their squad. So, I think And, you know, like with rugby as well, like culture is a huge, huge part of it. And if you create this really positive culture for development, for learning, for getting the best out of the person, not just the player, I think that's a really, really valuable thing.
I wanted to ask you, because you said there about sort of making people feel welcome, and I want to really dissipate that fear. So I want to take our minds for a second to the person who literally does know nothing about rugby, which for all intents and purposes me. And you spoke about the trials. So, for example, you sent out the expressions of interest. How did you do that, by the way? How did you get in contact? Was it social media? Was it newsletters? How did you do it?
Mainly social media, yeah. So I just put out onto the brigade group, so put that out to the existing team that was out. There's the Women's Fire Service social media.
Yeah.
In London, there's like a women's group on WhatsApp. Yeah. And I literally was just set up this link, this app that I found that you can kind of put a bit of a form together.
Yeah.
And people click on that, go, yeah, I'm pretty interested, sounds good. And then that just forms like a bit of a database. And I just kind of I wanted to grow this database of players. And then, so that was initially at the beginning of the year, just kept using those and social media and kind of trying to spread the word of the trials and that everybody's welcome. Didn't matter what ability or experience you had.
So when you were sending that out about expressions of interest and filling out the form, when people read that word, trials, for some people, that's the trigger. They're like, oh shit, no, I'm not done. They're going to have me sprinting up a hill carrying Big Tracy. And I've seen Big Tracy. I'm not carrying Big Tracy. So let's
actually, because of that exact reason, I renamed it a welcome day. So it was a trial/welcome day. For that exact reason, especially, you know, if you're starting now, I really wanted to start fresh almost to make something big in the long term.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's me that continues it, you know, but something now. Not everyone's going to be a seasoned rugby player yet, but actually, if we get them in and making them feel welcome, being part of it, and they know that we can help develop them and support them in their local playing of rugby as well. That's really what I wanted to do. So yeah, for that exact reason, I didn't want it to feel like a really scary, serious, and it wasn't serious either. Like, yes, we had lots of structure. The whole day was really enjoyable.
So break that down for us, because I really want to make it in so plain English, because when people, it's that fear of the unknown. Even if they show up, some people have showed up to things I've seen before and they leave their kit in the car because they're like, oh no, I'm just here to watch so and so, when actually they were going to take part, but they wanted to see what you were doing first. So give us the highlights of what were the physical trials, what did people actually do, what were they observed doing, and what were they being asked to do?
So we'd split it down after obviously the instructions that you'd get anyway. We had some contact elements, so, you know, looking at the actual tackling and around that breakdown area. But to begin with, we just used sausages, so, you know, it was that less daunting feeling for people that might be new, but also you can see what someone's technique or confidence is like, and you can read the confidence level. So yeah, around the contact zone, just open play stuff, so evasion, running around, how you link with other people, your communication, confidence, and then some sort of more technical lines as well, and how you are able to run and read what's in front of you there.
Yeah.
And it was all broken down into really small-sided drills and small-sided games, because I think a mixture of both is really important.
Sounds like some real thinking had gone behind that, to be honest. That sounds like a pretty good structure.
We'd obviously planned it beforehand, and like I said, we've got that fantastic wealth of experience with those other coaches as well that were there on the day. Each part was kind of half coached, half assessed, you know, but it was more just to try and bring the best out of everybody anyway. And you're going to see what people are like. You're going to see if they've played before or if they never have. Although I say that, we had one girl rock up and she was absolutely fantastic. We were like, I think she's wearing Northern Rugby League top. And I thought, so she's been playing. She's obviously at a club. But at the very end of the session, she's never played before, ever. And she was brilliant. So, you know, there's always like prizes. But yeah, there was just like that structure just to see different elements of the game and support everybody within those elements.
Yeah.
To give it a go and see how they crack on, really.
That's good. You mentioned about culture earlier. you said about culture and stuff like that. I think that's really powerful. So that's powerful in it's powerful in the emergency services as a whole, but it's certainly powerful. I kind of feel like the emergency services have got great banter and we've got that dark humor and stuff like that. Then I feel like you take that and put it in a rugby environment, it's like that 10x. And for some people, they can swim in it. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, oh my God, it's just a scream. Time flies by. That banter, it keeps me calibrated. It keeps me humble, stops that tall poppy syndrome. What does the culture mean to you? What sort of people get on best in that culture?
For me, the culture is a massive, massive part of it. I think that's often part of the battle. And, if there's ever any issues, it's usually go back to that cultural part and kind of evaluate there. But I think, like I said, it sometimes takes a certain sort of person that wants to go and get muddy and bash people around for 80 minutes. But I've also found that the similar sort of people with that kind of mentality are in the fire service as well. So it's quite refreshing to learn those things. But I think you can't take yourself too seriously. And as a group, everybody's sort of biggest fan, aren't you? And you want to really sort of help drive everyone through. But also, that sense of humour and you laugh together, you cry together, you take the highs and the lows together, and that mutual respect for each other as well as the opposition. All of those kind of aspects of a really positive culture, I think, build a really strong knit team as well.
I think culture is just the most powerful part of so many things. I always remember reading or listening to, an All Blacks audiobook, and there's several fantastic stuff that they have coming out of that. But one of the mantras for them is "No dickheads." And
that's right.
And I love it. And it's just that before that they did have something a bit more articulate and a bit more corporate-y. But it's, they always say if it's hard for somebody to remember, or when the words are on the wall but they don't mean anything, these days, for better or worse, some people feel like, oh, the etiquette has gone out of certain things and where's people manners these days and stuff like that. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think we just need to be a little bit more open about the way we use our language. And if we're not careful, we make everybody super clinical and then we lose all the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
We just hemorrhage the culture. So when you think about that no dickheads aspect of what they do, whilst they kind of coined the phrase, I think that kind of exists everywhere, and certainly I see it existing in the emergency services. Have you ever worked with, or do you think you've ever had that, obviously you don't name any names, but ever had that dickhead in the team? And what's the team's mechanism for avoiding those sort of people getting it? Obviously you don't actively try and push anybody out, but how do you make that culture so obvious and so essential?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because if you've got this fantastic culture and you've got this tight-knit family, whichever environment it's in, whether or not it's in the service or on the rugby team, if something starts to spoil that culture and it's clearly from one particular person, it's really tough because I think as well, especially because it's so British, that you don't want to offend anybody. And although actually I'm learning quickly that in this game that's not a thing. But
what if they're the best player on the field? What if they're the absolute star player? What if they're just like better than everybody? They're like, who are you? What are you telling me? You're no one. I didn't you see? I scored all the goddamn tries. You're nothing without me. What if you get that person?
Yeah, I've not really had anything to that extent. I've been really lucky, and the team that I coach regularly as well, that they're not. There's a really great culture. But say if you've got that guy that isn't rocking up to training, they're just expecting to get their
I'll make it on the team because I'm the best player. I don't need to attend the training.
Yeah, I'm not into that. And I think you can have very open, frank conversations without being disrespectful. And I'm all about transparency. And every week when I make my squad selection, I'll give reasons as to why I've done that. And that would be the same. I think if an issue came up, whatever the issue might be, I think that transparency about it, addressing it soon rather than later, is really, really important. I think if you let things go for too long, it kind of loses the power.
So we've spoken in around there about so many different aspects of what makes a great team. And I always say in the fire service, there's a whole reason of the podcast, to be honest with you. I realised I love the people and I love the team more than I love the thing. I think that's why I've always been drawn to different sports and stuff like that. Because if I see a group of people getting together, I would just like try and get involved and just be like, yeah, what we doing? Let's go for it. I don't care. And then I find out it's netball or futsal, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I can do that. I just think I'm like egotistically the general athlete. I'll just get involved in anything. But what is it, do you think, that makes a good team? What are the characteristics of a good team?
I think loving what you do, or at least like really having like a passion and respect for the reason you're doing the things, and you're grafting together, and that togetherness is always really, really important.
Is there a shared suffering there? Sorry, just to interrupt, but when you
I think so,
go through a
yeah,
struggle together, I see that so much in rugby.
100%.
It's like blood binds you. Do you know what I mean? When you
Oh
go through
God,
a struggle
absolutely.
together.
If you go, like blood, sweat, and tears, and all that, and you've done that together, and you come out the end, and it's like you're walking on the battlefield together, and
That's it.
You're fighting and working for each other, and I think that's really important on and off the pitch. Quite frankly, we go back to station, and you get a really tough job. You're in it together, and it's really important to kind of have that end goal that everyone's working towards, and having respect for everybody's input. Like everyone's like good at different things or better at different things, and really respecting the fact that you've got somebody for any part of the job, and everybody's valid, and really respecting that.
You've got to have the humility to learn from them as well, though. Say, like, if you are
100%.
the young gun, the 20-something-year-old, and you're the fittest and the fastest and whatever, still have enough humility to be that eternal student. And I've got it tattooed on my arm that I'm everybody's student and also everybody's teacher. Do you know what I mean? You can teach me something, I can teach you something, but not if we're that ignorant and egotistical that we're not open to it. I always say,
for sure.
The only thing I'm married to is my wife. I'm not married to any opinion or anything like that.
No.
If someone can prove to me or show me a different way, freaking excellent. Absolutely. 100% I've learned something, but you've got to have humility.
Every day's a learning day, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel really lucky that every day, even near on 40, that I feel like I can learn something new from somebody, whether or not it's at work or at home or at rugby. I think if everyone can kind of have that attitude, then you're just getting all those different ideas that can make something great at the end of it. But I think just that whole team thing, the respect thing is a massive thing for me.
Do you think respect has to be earned, or do you think you should give everybody respect irrespective of who they are and what they are?
I believe in both. I think ultimately, if you truly respect someone, it's because they have earned your respect.
Yep.
But I am of the opinion that you must give respect to people, especially like in the service that you've got rank, and you've got people that have been in for many, many years and have a lot of experience. I think you have to respect those things. And everyone's human, right? So you need to respect that as well. So I'm of the opinion that respect all over is really important. However, I also believe that respect needs to be earned. So when you're looking at leaders, to be a good leader, you want to earn that respect, right?
You've fled straight into that. I wanted to ask you about the leadership aspects as well, because obviously, it's perfect. You're head coach for the women, but you've got assistant coaches, you've got your women's captain, and also you haven't necessarily got to have a title to be a leader either. I'm sure you identify a number of incredible leaders in the team who aren't wearing a band on their arm, but they just have a certain characteristic. What are those characteristics? Even if people you admire or leaders you've worked with, when you're like, damn, that's good. That person makes you want to go that extra mile. What are those characteristics? Yeah,
I was going to say, even in day-to-day work and whatnot, some of the leaders that I respect the most aren't necessarily the ones with any stripes or clips. And they're the people that take the time to get to know you, get to know your strengths and weaknesses, work with what you've got and how you can understand, and bring out the best in people. And I think that just speaks volumes. And on the pitch as well, if you've got those players that are fantastic, that they're whatever their skills are, if they're able to draw out the best in the rest of the team, they're leading by example as well as bringing everyone else along for the ride as well. And I think that's amazing. It's really great to watch it from the sideline as a coach, but it's really great when I feel that someone's done that for me as well. And like I said, I'm a frog still, so every day is definitely a learning day. And some of the people that I have learnt the most from, and that have made me feel the most comfortable and able, and have given me the confidence that I might need to sort of believe in myself, are people that have no rank, but they're fantastic leaders. So.
I love what you said about getting to know somebody and knowing where their level is, because I've made the opposite mistake so many times, where you come in at the wrong level. Or using the example of the trials, like, the end goal for the team. So if when they turn up to trials, you're operating a mindset of this is the end goal, you can come in too fast and people just
Yeah.
bounce off the surface. Do you know what I mean? You come in too hot and they just ricochet off because, you know, the bus has got to slow down for you to get on it. You can't just go screaming past and go, let's go. And then you know, everyone's like, oh, Jesus, that looks a bit intense and a bit crazy. I'm okay, thanks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got to have that discipline. I think that's really hard to master, especially when you've also got a number of players in the team, like I said, they play internationally. They're consummate professionals. They've got their own personal admin drilled down, how they train, how they eat, how they To be able to take that down to that other level, is it the richness of different experiences in the team that gives you that?
I think it can be a challenge and it can be a blessing as well. I think it's never a bad thing to peel things back to basics, because even people at the top of their game will still be practicing those basics. So that sometimes is a bit of a blessing in disguise, and then you can kind of build that up to allow for everybody. You know, I think resources as well is really important. So I think women's sport in general have always kind of suffered from that, and it's getting better. Yeah. But, you know, the fact that we've got a number of coaches, you can actually start to separate the different levels of experience to make that the right sort of training for them and make that sort of level appropriate. But also, like, having just a couple of tricks up your sleeve on how to integrate them all. So if there's people that aren't ready for contact, for instance, you know, you integrate a condition on a certain game that allows for that. So some people are doing contact, some people aren't. You know, some people might be coming back from injury.
Yeah.
So it's just having some tricks up your sleeve to be able to
that's
have
annoying.
Something going on.
Sometimes when and that's sometimes put me off getting in contact with some contact sports, is because it frustrates me, the idea of doing something for my general fitness, so it's not my paid job, and then the idea that someone might maliciously come and try and freaking hurt me is just annoying. You know what I mean? I get the contact, absolutely. I've done some wrestling and all that sort of stuff, and those played rugby and all that sort of jazz. Played ice hockey and roller hockey to quite a high level, but it's different to rugby. I always think just that collision of bodies is a concern for people that worry about the long term aspect of their career. But you do actively manage against that. Yeah.
So I think there's, especially, you know, in the media and whatnot, there's lots and lots of ways that we kind of protected against that. Obviously, there is that risk, and it is a contact sport, so there is a level of, sometimes it's just an aspect of the sport that you have to manage. But, you know, if your coaching technique's right, so the way that you go into contact, the way that you look to protect yourself and the other player. So as a tackler, for instance, you're looking at obviously tackling the person with the ball, but you want to protect yourself. So we really focus on technique around that, and body position, body strength, and maximising the way that you use your body. And a lot of people don't know how to use their body in that way.
Have you ever looked at working with like judo coaches and stuff like that? I've been in a couple of fantastic rugby sessions where they talk a lot about those biomechanics, pivot and fulcrum and positioning, and things like judo and stuff are amazing for it, because that's where the biggest athlete isn't always the one that comes out on top.
Yeah, for sure. Just knowing how to use your body and the forces that go with it as well. Yeah. And, well, you know, on the rugby pitch, you've got a tiny little scrum half that will still be tackling the massive prop, you know, and that it's all about that. I had a year ago, I considered, a friend of mine is into BJJ, and I said, oh, that'd be really good.
BJJ is wicked. Wicked.
Yeah, it looks it. And I just thought that'd be really great to kind of, you know, have a bit of a session on that as well. And then obviously COVID struck, but definitely something I'm keen to kind of explore and get players
to... You'll benefit from it. You really will. There's so many aspects to it.
Yeah, for sure, right?
I wanted to ask you, sort of before we close, the last sort of two things was, what do you think people in the fire service in general can learn from the game of rugby? What is the crossover? What bits do you think will strengthen and fortify people in the fire service?
Well, from my experience, and I think the reason why I wanted to get in the fire service, and like I said, I've only been in a year, so a lot of similarities in what I considered, you know, to be really important. So that camaraderie within your team, which kind of feels like a bit of a family, where you're protective over each other and you work hard together for an end goal. I think the level, you need a bit of a sense of humour to be in both, or however you look at it, or a bad sense of humour. which is often the case. But
I feel like you get the best
absolutely.
bits in it without the worst bits. What I mean like is there's probably less ramifications, and there's no dickhead with a rank
Yeah.
on that's gonna like spoil everybody's day. Not saying that everyone with a rank spoils everybody's days, but I've got a rank myself and I try not to do it. But there's you get the best bits and they kind of like lift you up. So when you have the crap days at work, it makes you realise that oh no, there is amazing people and we're all still in the service together, and there are people that are still romantic about it and still love it, and there's that aspect. Not putting words in your mouth, but yeah, I hear you and I just agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely learned that firefighters are announced and moaning, but actually, they're still liars. They'll love the job.
I know.
So yeah, that whole romanticising it, I think, is definitely everyone is proud to be in their service, and I think every person takes the field is proud to have that badge on their chest.
Yeah.
And I think that sense of pride in both areas is really probably the same thing, that same feeling. You're getting home and talking about it to your mates, talking about it to your family, and how that's made you feel. And I think you can get that from both.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the aspects of day-to-day in both, they really cross over, but for all those reasons as well.
Yeah. Two things, I know I said only last two, but I've got another two now. was so the people that have heard us talking today and they're like, you know what, I actually remember seeing that post or I remember seeing that email, but I was like, nah. And now they've heard this and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go for this. I might go down and watch them play in London, and then I'm going to spend a bit of time just getting ready for it. What sort of training do the girls get involved in? What would you recommend somebody does if they've never been in the gym or if they're a CrossFitter or whatever and they're like, I want to do a bit more focused training that will prep me for it? What would you suggest they do?
We're doing the service already. I mean, that element of fitness that you have already is really useful. I mean, the type of strength conditioning that you'd be doing, and even just that heavy lifting and whatnot. So that definitely transfers over. If it's someone that's going from sort of doing nothing, I would just say get down to your local rugby club, because whatever you think you can't do, you can. And the coaches there will tell you to do something, and it will be something that you can do, because most people can run forwards and run around, and they can flop to the floor, and you can develop how to do that properly. And
forgetting how to fall over, that's one of it.
Yeah,
If you have not fell over for the past 15 years, that idea of falling over, and also I'll just speak from a personal friend of the family, is when some women have had children, they feel like they can't run anymore. They feel like their bladder and other aspects feel like I feel like I'm going to wee myself all the time. Do you know what I mean? And that puts them off doing any sort of running. But I'm sure that's not a common thing, but I'm sure it's something that the girls are not aware of, and there's support out there for it.
Well, it absolutely is. You know, I feel very privileged to know a number of women that have had children, have babies, and come back to play rugby or gone back to the fire service, and they're still continuing. There's plenty of places now, especially online and local postpartum videos and things like that can give really good, solid, strong advice on the best things for you to do in order to get back to sort of playing and feeling confident and comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So that should never, ever be a barrier, because rugby is the place for everybody. There is something for someone, and I would always just implore anybody to ignore that little voice in the back of your head saying you can't do it. And
that's a thief. That little voice is a thief.
Oh, isn't it just? I've got to sort of do that myself. I've decided to get back to sort of training rugby, and I've put it off for 3 years, and I'm going tonight, and I'm absolutely shitting it, but what's the worst that's going to happen? I'll just get a couple of bruises, whatever. So
good.
I think there's something for everybody, and if you want to get involved, get down to your local club. You can find them online. If you're in the service and want to get involved with the fire team,
what is that? That's the big bit. What is the best way? So if they've heard us today talking, how can women, girls, how can people get in contact, either to support or even sponsors and stuff like that? Because what you guys do is great, and obviously the guys and the girls need that aspect of support. There's lots of costs involved, and if people want to align themselves with you, whether it's through kit or support or anything like that, are you open to companies and people doing that?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, lots of things there. So if you want to get involved, be a player or something like that, then we're on our social media. So just look up England Fire Service Rugby. There's generic ones for the men and women, and there's one for women as well. So that's really easy to find. We're self-funded, so we get various sort of different funding streams and whatnot. And we're kind of very lucky that we've had a couple of sponsors get on board as well. If that's something that companies feel like they would like to support, and it's a really great cause getting so many people active and
they want to get involved with that. What company would not want to be involved in a bunch of fit, strong women who are also just happen to be heroes? I mean, the marketing sells itself. Do you know what I mean? That's just a no-brainer. People just need to know it exists, and people need to see what you girls are doing, because it's incredible and it's scary, and everybody's doing it. So what gets recognised and rewarded is going to get repeated.
Yeah, 100%. And I might as well, I'll plug our fixture as well.
Please do. Right. Please. No, absolutely plug the hell out of it.
We've got our first big fixture coming up in November, on November the 24th, where both of our teams, we've got our first 15 and our development 15 playing at London Welsh in Richmond in the afternoon. So the development one will be at 12:30 and the first team will be at 2 against the British Police. We've got loads and loads of interest already. We've got local schools bringing their female rugby players down as well to come and support. We've got loads going on that day. We've got an outreach team coming down. We're just trying to make a really big event of it. It's a suggested donation of £3 firefighters charity on the day. So
£3? That's offensive. It needs to be at least a fiver. If anybody does not put a fiver in, you need to have a quiet word with yourself, folks. I know we're all struggling, but come on, let's get a grip.
Exactly that. So if you want us to dip in a bit deeper, that's fine. But just trying to make a massive day of it, because these women deserve it. Women's sport deserves it. Women's rugby deserve it, and our firefighters and and police officers and all of our emergency services deserve that recognition and support, and it's going to be a huge day of celebrating them.
Are you worried about the rivalry, given that it's a common belief that police officers are people that fail to get into the fire service? Are you worried that any of them are going to be particularly disappointed in seeing you girls rock up?
You know what? We're giving them a day to be around their heroes. So,
I mean, how kind of us. Come on. They're like, guys, stop watching. I know you keep staring at the fire engines. Come over. Come and play with us.
Exactly that.
So, November 24th, 12:30. I'd advise everybody gets there at about 12. Get themselves set up.
The bar's going to be open.
Beautiful. That was it. Don't spend your first fiver there. First fiver's got to go to the charity and to the team. Everything we will drop in the notes below, a link to the social media, and also a direct one for people that want to book on and get involved. Kirsty, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I will leave you to that gorgeous dash hound that keeps jumping up into your lap. For anybody that doesn't know, Kirsty and her partner have got a beautiful little puppy that it keeps crying out for attention. So we've had to share that this morning. But thanks so much for that. Summer love to the rest of the team.
Thanks so much.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great to meet you.
You too. See you, bye.
Take care. See you, bye.
There you have it, folks. That was my conversation with Kirsty. 70 applicants they had. So the girls, I've got 2 teams running now. They have got their first big fixture coming up November 24th. The link is in the notes below. Make sure you get there at noon. They are going to be going toe-to-toe, head-to-head, exchanging blood, sweat and tears with the England police team. So you're not going to want to miss it. I know Kirsty only said £3, but make sure you get that £5 out. Give that to the Firefighters Charity. The podcast is a massive supporter of the charity. A massive good luck to the girls, and a big thanks to you for coming back to the Firefighters podcast, touching base, hearing about Kirsty, hearing about the team. If you know a strong, powerful, interesting, gregarious, passionate, driven woman in the fire service, and you think they want to learn a little bit more about England Fire Service Rugby, you think it's something they want to get involved with, be sure to send them a link to this podcast. Don't be selfish. You've listened up until this point, so you might as well go all the way. So all that's left to say is a thanks to you. Yes, you, for giving up your precious time to be here with us and listening to the conversation with myself and Kirsty. So until next time, look after yourself, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and we will see you soon, right here on the Firefighters Podcast.